Good morning, clients and guests of Chinen&Arinaga Financial Group. This morning, we are going to walk you through the fundamentals of retirement planning. We want to try and get you to become your own expert. We want to get you to the point that you're comfortable with the concept, the pros and cons of each of the components of retirement. Our seminar this morning is going to cover three basic components: pension, Social Security, and retirement programs. This is our agreement for this morning. One thing I want to make clear is that we are not the state of Hawaii. I do not represent or work for the state of Hawaii retirement programs. We're not with the Social Security system. We're independent financial consultants. Our job is not to replace those resources. We want you. You should go to consultations if they'll take you to the state. With the federal, go and visit a counselor once or twice so you get the consistent answer. But we're here to offer a supporting service to supplement those resources, not necessarily to replace it. So here's what we're going to cover. There are common concerns that come up. And this is out of an article I ran into, and it talks about the 5 biggest risks in retirement. Number 1, outliving your money in retirement. The greatest failure in retirement planning is to run out of money before you run out of life. That's the last thing we want. But it is a concern, especially if your income is coming out of an account that has a balance and that can run out. Unlike Social Security, it's for life. State retirement, it's for life. A military pension, it's for life. But if you're depending on a 403B, an IRA, or 457 deferred comp, there is an outside chance that you could run out. And that is one of the biggest fears, right? I think all of us have that concern. Number 2, higher than expected medical costs. Of course, there's the insurance premium that we are concerned about, the copay. And those are dollars, but they're not the big dollars. I'll tell you where the big dollars are: long-term care. How many of you in this room have been personally affected or know somebody that has been personally affected by long-term care costs? Right? I mean, it's hard to avoid that. If you have not been touched by that cost, congratulations, it's coming. Nah, but I'll give you an example. My mother-in-law needed long-term care, so we started her off at home care, nurses coming to her place. At that time, it was $30 an hour. Now it's $30 to $40, 4-hour minimum, right? You can only do that for so long. I tried putting her into senior daycare. Didn't like it. Nobody likes it. So now we put her in assisted living. She was at the Plaza. I had to move her to our care home in Pro City. $7,000 a month. So I moved her to someplace cheaper, $5,200 a month. I can go cheaper, but again, there's the quality of care. But if you had to pay for long-term care costs at that amount, will that affect your pension? Will that affect your lifestyle? You bet you will. That's an example of medical costs. Oh, and then there's a stock market. Up and down and down and down and up and down. It's like, whew. But at least I kind of know what's going on. If you had your income and your future dollars dependent on the stock market, you'd be going crazy. You definitely need to come and see one of our advisors. They'll make you uncrazy with a solution. But it's nerve-wracking, even for a financial consultant, to, for our account to go up and down. I don't look at it daily, but I just have a sense. And I'm concerned about, last year was a tough year for stocks and bonds. There was really no place to hide. Question is, what's 2023 going to go? And how do I manage my money? There's family expenses. Many families want to help their children purchase homes, right? How much is a single family home in the state of Hawaii? A 3-bedroom, 2-bath, single family home. $1 million plus, it's going up. Young people cannot afford a home today. It is hard, so we want to help. And then there's Social Security changes. Delayed benefit, Taxation, we found out if you're on Social Security, you get taxed. Oh, right? Surprise, surprise. And then if you're working, they take some of your money out back. All right? These are the type of changes that we are concerned about. So with that in mind, this is the concept I want to leave you with, the three-legged stool. There are three primary sources of income that you need to worry about, that most of you have, and they need to have a basic grasp of. Number one, employer pension. Today we'll be talking about the state of Hawaii employee retirement system, contributory, non-contributory, and the two hybrid plans. That's your foundation, number one. Number two, Social Security. This is a federal program. You're eligible at 62. You need to know that there's a reduction if you start benefits before full retirement age, which is in the range of 67 for most of us. And it also affects your survivor's benefit, the Social Security, leg number two. And leg number three is your own personal savings. In this category, we think of 403B, tax sheltered annuity, which for those of you who work with us, that's probably our single largest pool of money. 457, deferred comp, AKA Island Savings Plan. For those of you that are not DOE, that's probably your largest pool. And then you have known about IRAs, individual retirement accounts. Again, that's been around since I was in high school. The $2,000 limit back then is now up at $6,000 and $7,000. And then there's a variation of traditional versus Roth. Point I'm getting at is you have your foot dipped into each of these pools. We want to help you to recognize it, understand the value, and if you're here with years to go before retirement, I congratulate you because this is the stuff that would be good to know when you first start teaching. Many of you here because your retirement is coming up. Okay, and that's okay. You have what you have. We'll maximize what you have. But at this point, you can't do much about increasing the dollars because it's not about accumulation anymore. It is about distribution. The rules, the guidelines that apply to distribution are different from accumulation. First of all, leg number one, your employer's pension, Hawaii State Retirement System. Number one, you need to know if you are covered. General rule of thumb, well, call it state retirement system. That's the bottom line. But if you have been covered by the state medical plan for a number of years, and when I say contributory, non-contributory, that kind of sounds familiar, you at least need to know which system you are on. Okay, so raise your hand if you are on the contributory system. Raise your hand if you are non-contributory. Okay, a little more hands, okay. Raise your hand if you're on the hybrid tier 1. Okay. And hybrid tier 2. And the final question, for the rest of you who haven't raised your hand, go like this. All right. We're gonna solve this, at least conceptually, but you need to meet with a consultant and we can determine for sure. Bring your paycheck in, we can look at it. Know in your head the year you started working with the state of Hawaii. Not DOE necessarily, could be State Department of Treasury, but state of Hawaii. That's going to be a clue. Come in with your paycheck stubs and we'll tell you. So we're going to walk through each one of them. Here's how you know which plan you are on. The biggest clue is your membership date. When did you start? When were you first eligible for the state of Hawaii retirement benefit? If you were working before 1984, you're with the contributory called the old system. We do have a handful of clients still in this group, but they are what we call love veterans. If you're under that system, you contribute 7.8% of your income towards retirement. You're eligible at age 55 years old and 5 years of service. The formula to calculate your benefit is there. Average final compensation. You notice all of them, they have C. What is that? AFC, average final compensation. We know it more informally, high 5 or high 3. The 5 highest years of salary averaged. You add them up, divided by 5, and that's your high 5. It is not your highest year. It is not your last year necessarily. Typically it is. But if your income is on a typical annual raise, the high 5 is most likely your last 5. But we did the math to say if with 30 years of service under the formula, you will retire with 60% of your pay, 37, 60, or about half. That's a general ballpark. One of the things we can do for you, we can, given some information that you probably have in your head and your paycheck, we can estimate using the State of Hawaii calculator, online calculator, we can help you figure out your exact benefit. Non-contributory, 2006, that's the year the non-contributory was introduced. 2012, the hybrid came around. This was the time that you were given a choice to stay with your existing plan or switch over to the hybrid, 2012. It was a big deal for a lot of people for obvious reasons, but you might have opted to switch over. I'll talk a little bit about those of you that have a blended retirement, how that works. And then those of us who started in 2012 or later are on what they call the Tier 2. You have an 8% contribution into your plan, 8% of your pay. Here's your retirement and there. Now, so you all have benefits, but look at these numbers. This is how much you receive. And that's better than zero. But let me put it this way. 60%, let's say non-contributory, call it 40%. You can retire and get 40% of your income. That's good. Let me say it another way. When you retire, you would take a 60% pay cut. Sounds very different. It's the same thing. 40% is better than 37.5. It's better than zero for a lot of, but it's still a reduction in pay. There's a serious income reduction under all the retirement plans. But we need to know, how much am I going to get? That's a good starting. Which system you're on, then how much am I going to get? And this is how it works. The hybrid Tier 2 for clients, teachers starting after 2012. 65 and 10 years or age 60 and 30 years. So the youngest age which you can retire is 60. But the point I want to make here is that once we determine which system you're on, right there is a question we get. How much am I going to receive? And we can do it on a formula. There are some options that they give you. It reduces the benefit to you depending on the survivor benefit you pick. But all of this is available. The tools are there. ERS website. It's just a matter of getting to the website and then inputting the information. There are some very other issues. It includes vesting, early retirement. Vesting is this idea of you could actually terminate, quit, and still own some of the benefits. You could leave the Department of Ed, you could leave the state and still get benefits. That's called vesting. First of all, if you are vested, these are the age when benefits start. So there's going to be a gap between your DOE income and your DOE pension until you hit these ages. If you retire early, you can receive benefits, but notice there's a percent reduction for each year. 5, 6% in that range. For each year you retire early. 5% a year, retire 5 years early. That's a 25% reduction. You have cost of living increase. The state calls it the post-retirement increase. 2.5% every year increase. Unlike Social Security, it is not compounded. If you know what your retirement pay is, I can tell you, calculating the 2.5%, I can tell you in 10 years what you're going to get. 13 years what you're going to get. All right? 2.5% per year. And depending on your contributions, you have the option to refund.